Amancio Ortega. Worth $31 billion. Industry: retail clothing. Country of citizenship: Spain. Amancio Ortega is the founder and chairman of a company that owns many stores, including the enormously popular international clothing store, Zara. Now Spain's richest man, Ortega is the son of a railroad worker and had no formal higher education. When Ortega was 13, he worked as a delivery boy for a shirt maker and later became the manager of a clothing store. He began making clothing in his living room and selling it to local stores. Ortega had an ability to predict what styles were going to be popular and to create these styles with inexpensive materials. In 1975, Ortega opened his first Zara store. Zara gained a reputation for selling designer fashions at reasonable prices. Today, Ortega's company has more than 4,000 stores in 71 countries.
Sheikh Abdul Latif Jameel. Worth $5.1 billion. Industry: business. Country of citizenship: Saudi Arabia. A great philanthropist and prominent businessman, Mohammed Abdul Latif Jameel, president of ALJ, runs one of the world's largest car dealerships, with operations in the Middle East, UK, Central Asia, and China. A leading figure in corporate social responsibility, he has initiated a series of initiatives against poverty and has contributed greatly to the government's Saudiization program in the kingdom by promoting thousands of jobs every year through the ALJ community services programs. Abdul Latif Jameel is an MIT alumni, member of the Board of Trustees, and dedicated supporter of the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, JPAL. He has been named Saudi Volunteer of the Year for 2012 in recognition of the services offered by the ALJCI in Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Arab world. Li Keqiang. Worth $26.5 billion. Industry: business. Country of citizenship: China. Li was born into an impoverished family in China in 1928. When he was 15, his father died, forcing Li to leave high school so that he could work to support his family. He took a job in a plastics company where he would work 16 hours a day. At this company, Li used to assemble plastic flowers. By 1950, Li had started his own plastics manufacturing company. His company prospered, which led Li to expand his business into many different fields. However, his successes are not all monetary. Li Keqiang has a reputation for being honest and generous. In fact, he is one of Asia's most prominent philanthropists and has announced plans to donate 1/3 of his wealth to charity. Stephen Paul Jobs, 1955 to 2011. Worth $8.3 billion. Industry: computer design. Country of citizenship: U.S. Stephen Paul Jobs was born in 1955 and adopted into a working-class family. He grew up in what later became Silicon Valley. He dropped out of college because he could not afford to pay his tuition. In the late 70s, he co-founded Apple with Steve Wozniak and others, and proceeded to develop and market the first successful lines of personal computers. He eventually resigned from Apple over an argument with the board of directors in 1984 and founded Next. Apple's buyout of Next in 1997 brought Jobs back to Apple as its CEO. He was the largest individual shareholder of the Walt Disney Company and a member of the board. Jobs was admired by many for his entrepreneurial skills, his foresight, and his ability to create and support products that were both functional and aesthetically pleasing.
My parents gave me 30,000 rials for graduation.
Wow! What are you going to do with all that cash?
I don't know. I'm going around in circles about it, driving myself and everyone else crazy. At first, I was going to do something really indulgent with it, like take a vacation. I was ready to book it, but then I got cold feet.
Why? I think vacation sounds like a great idea. You've worked really hard for 4 years. You deserve a break.
That's true, but on the other hand, I don't want to spend all that money on something that will be over in a week. So then I was thinking of buying something useful, like a used car.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it would be a great convenience to have a car, but at the same time, I'm used to taking public transportation, and I really don't mind it. Frankly, I can't think of anything that I really need, so maybe I should put the money aside for a rainy day.
Well, yes. I suppose the alternative would be to just put it in the bank until you need it.
Right. But then again, what's the point of having money if you're not enjoying it? Maybe I should do something indulgent with it, like take that vacation.
Now I see how you're driving everyone crazy.
My parents gave me 30,000 rials for graduation.
Wow! What are you going to do with all that cash?
I don't know. I'm going around in circles about it, driving myself and everyone else crazy. At first, I was going to do something really indulgent with it, like take a vacation. I was ready to book it, but then I got cold feet.
Why? I think vacation sounds like a great idea. You've worked really hard for 4 years. You deserve a break.
That's true, but on the other hand, I don't want to spend all that money on something that will be over in a week. So then I was thinking of buying something useful, like a used car.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it would be a great convenience to have a car, but at the same time, I'm used to taking public transportation, and I really don't mind it. Frankly, I can't think of anything that I really need, so maybe I should put the money aside for a rainy day.
Well, yes. I suppose the alternative would be to just put it in the bank until you need it.
Right. But then again, what's the point of having money if you're not enjoying it? Maybe I should do something indulgent with it, like take that vacation.
Now I see how you're driving everyone crazy.
The first way in which goods were bought was not with money. Instead, people used to trade something of value that they possessed for something they needed. The most common things to trade were cattle and crops, like corn and wheat. So, for example, if you were a farmer, you might trade your corn with a butcher for meat. The butcher might trade his meat with a shoemaker for shoes. This kind of trade was called bartering. Bartering began as far back as 9000 BCE. However, there was a problem with bartering. What if someone had something to trade, but no one wanted or needed it? Or what if people could not agree on what was a fair trade? To solve this problem, the first kind of money came about around 1200 BCE in China, where people would use special shells called cowrie shells to purchase goods. These shells were the most widely and longest used form of money in history. In some parts of Africa, these shells were used until the middle of the 1900s. The earliest metal coins were produced in China around 1000 BCE. The coins were made out of an inexpensive metal and had holes in them so that they could be put together to make a chain. The earliest coins made of valuable metals were silver coins produced in Turkey around 500 BCE. Coins made of silver, bronze, and gold were soon being used by the Greeks, Romans, and Persians. By 800 CE, the first paper money had appeared in China. This form of money eventually became common around the world. At one point, people probably thought the cowrie shells were going to be used forever. That's how many of us think about coins and paper money now. But money is likely to continue to change. In fact, a new kind of money is already being exchanged over the internet. This money, called electronic money or digital cash, functions like real cash, except it's not on paper. The money in a bank account is converted to a digital code, which can be used to make purchases. While digital cash is very new, it is expected to become common in the years ahead.
One, they traded something of value that they possessed for something they needed. 2. What if no one wanted or needed it? 3. The first coins were produced in China, and the first paper money appeared in China. 4. Money called digital cash is already being exchanged over the internet.
Sheikh Suleiman bin Abdul Aziz Al-Razi. Sheikh Suleiman bin Abdul Aziz Al-Razi, the world-renowned philanthropist and winner of the 2012 King Faisal International Prize for Service to Islam, has not always been a billionaire. Born in 1920, he spent his youth in Al-Qasim, where he and his brother Saleh began their business changing money for pilgrims on their way to the cities of Mecca and Medina. Their business expanded in the 1970s during the oil boom in Saudi Arabia. The Al-Razi brothers helped migrant workers from Indonesia, Pakistan, and other places to send their earnings home. They were granted permission to establish a bank, the Al-Razi Bank, which complied with religious tenets such as a ban on interest. Founding the bank, which is now the world's biggest Islamic lender, was not hurdle-free. Suleiman al-Razi began by opening an office in Britain to introduce the Islamic banking system on a more international basis. However, his initial attempts to secure a banking license were unsuccessful, as British officials were not aware of the principles and requirements of Islamic banking. He had to travel to different countries in order to explain to bankers that interest was forbidden by Islam and regarded as unacceptable by pious people all over the world. He pointed out that interest caused a lot of people to avoid transactions with banks and to keep their cash and valuables at home. Eventually, the banking system he proposed was launched in Saudi Arabia and subsequently implemented in the United Kingdom. Sheikh Suleiman bin Abdul Aziz Al-Razi is also chairman of the National Agricultural Development Company and founder of the Al-Wataniya agricultural projects, which include the largest poultry farm in the Middle East and one of the most successful companies in Saudi Arabia. Al-Razi had visited a poultry farm abroad and had been shocked by the improper way chickens were fed and slaughtered. This prompted him to launch the Poultry Farm Project, making sure that chickens were naturally fed and halal slaughtered according to Islamic tenets. He has also introduced and supported organic farming throughout the Middle East, intent on securing healthy food for all as a means of fostering good health, preventing illness, and consequently reducing the cost of medical treatment. The Al-Razi projects diversified into other areas as well, such as real estate and other investment projects. In 2009, Suleiman Al-Razi established the Suleiman Al-Razi University, a non-profit research university with 3 departments: medicine, nursing, and applied science. In fact, the university was established by Suleiman Al-Razi Charitable Foundation, SAAR, which is considered the largest foundation of its kind in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in terms of capital as well as range and volume of activities. SAAR now owns and controls more than half of Suleiman Al-Razi's wealth. The foundation organizes and oversees a substantial number of charities and humanitarian activities worldwide. In May 2011, Suleiman Al-Razi announced that he was donating most of his $7.7 billion fortune to charity. It is not uncommon for people in the Islamic world to set aside 1/3 or 1/4 of their wealth for endowment, effective after death. In Suleiman Al-Razi's case, however, this was implemented during his lifetime. He distributed the rest of his wealth to his children in order to avoid potential disputes over inheritance that could destroy kinship and harmony among them.
Suleiman Al-Razi was awarded the highly prestigious King Faisal International Prize for the Service to Islam in 2012. In recognition of his outstanding service to Islam, his role in the establishment of the world's largest Islamic bank, and his ongoing contribution to charities, humanitarian projects fight against poverty. Having experienced extreme poverty earlier in life, he chose to donate and distribute all his assets, becoming poor once again but gaining peace of mind and inner happiness. Despite his advanced age, he enjoys a fully active life as he travels to various regions of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, managing the endowment project under his flagship, the SAAR Foundation.
Jeffrey P. Bezos was born in 1964 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He displayed a remarkable mechanical aptitude when he managed to dismantle his crib with a screwdriver as a toddler. When Jeffrey was a teenager, the family moved to Miami, where he discovered computers. He graduated from high school, a valedictorian of his class. He then completed his studies in computer science and electrical engineering at Princeton University. After graduation, he worked at some well-known firms on Wall Street. It looked as if Jeff would have a successful career in finance when he made a discovery that changed his life and changed the course of business forever. The Internet had been used mainly by the Defense Department, the government, and academic researchers until as late as 1994. One day, Jeff Bezos observed that Internet usage was increasing by 2,300% a year. He researched the top 20 mail-order businesses and found that books were the only item for which no catalog existed, as it would be far too big to mail. He attended the American Booksellers Convention the very next day, where he discovered that major wholesalers had already compiled electronic lists of their inventory. All he needed was a location on the Internet. The new online company was set up in a 2-bedroom house with a garage in Seattle. On July 16, 1995, the site was open to the world. By September, it had weekly sales of $20,000. The business grew faster than anyone could have predicted. When the online book-selling business expanded to include an endless range of products, from clothing to electronic goods to furniture and so on, skeptics thought it was growing too fast to be successful. As it turned out, it was the smartest move anyone could have made that changed the face of commerce forever and turned several members of the Bezos family into billionaires.